All right, this is Ubaid on behalf of V Electronics, and in this video, we'll be talking about the theory of convergence. Okay, now when it comes to the theory of convergence, the theory of convergence basically says that less developed nations, okay, are able to catch up to highly developed nations much faster. Okay, so basically, the growth when it comes to economy is higher, the economic growth is higher in less developed nations than well-developed nations. So even though well-developed nations may be better off than the less developed nations, the growth in terms of economy is much higher in less developed nations. Okay, so this is convergence. So growth, and this has to do with economic growth. So economic growth in less developed nations. So this is less developed nations is much higher than economic growth in well-developed nations. Okay, so this is convergence. So economic growth in less developed nations is much higher than economic growth in well-developed nations. All right. So when it comes to convergence, as far as the theory of convergence is concerned, you have many factors that impact the development of a less developed nation. So many factors that impact the economic growth of a less developed nation. All right. So number one factor has to do with marginal benefit. Okay, or you can say this is marginal gain. All right, and this goes back to our theory or law of diminishing marginal utility gain. So, law of diminishing marginal utility and gain. Okay, and basically says that hey, listen, okay, as time goes by and firms and businesses make capital investments, okay, it may lead to capital deepening. Okay, as time goes by, as human capital goes up, okay, let's say investment in education and skills goes up, okay, it may lead to capital deepening. Okay, but there is a peak, so to speak, when it comes to the growth rate for a country's economy, despite the capital deepening. Okay, so just like the stock market, okay, the more a country invests in physical capital meaning equipment, machinery, so on and so forth, human capital meaning education and skills, okay, the higher the growth rate. Okay, however, this growth rate will start going down at some point, okay, which means it will get reduced. So even though, okay, the economy may be growing, but it may not be growing at the same pace as before. Okay, so the economic growth is much slower. So over here you have economic growth, is much slower, is slower, as per the theory of convergence. Okay. And when I say theory of convergence, okay, it has to do with marginal gain. So, for example, in a less developed country, let's say you have a less developed country, in a less developed country, the growth rate, the growth rate is much higher than in a well-developed nation. Because the well-developed nation has reached its peak when it comes to its growth rate, when it comes to an increase in its growth rate, which means that despite the fact that the well-developed nation may be growing in terms of GDP, in terms of aggregate demand, so on and so forth, okay, the growth rate is less compared to the growth rate of a less developed nation. Okay, which basically means that the less developed country is able to catch up to your well-developed country over here. Okay, because of the high growth rate. All right. And the second theory behind convergence, or second factor, second reason for a convergence in economy has to do with experience. Okay. So when it comes to experience, okay, well-developed nations usually have more experience when it comes to economic growth. Okay, so this has to do with experience. So may have more experience. Okay, may have. So well-developed nation. Okay, nations have more experience, may have more experience, more experience when it comes to economic growth. And it's possible that they're able to pass on experience to less developed nations. Okay, and when I say pass on this experience, it could be in the form of tax policies, it could be in the form of fiscal policies, it could be in the form of monetary policies as to when to use monetary policies, when to use fiscal policies, foreign policies. Okay, so you have foreign policies, fiscal, monetary, foreign policies. It could be in the form of government policies. Okay, so on and so forth. So that's experience. Okay, now apart from experience, you also have technology in general. Okay, so technology. Now, when it comes to technology, we're talking about innovation and inventions. So, inventions and innovations. And as per the theory of convergence, okay, a well-developed nation may have invented something, okay, that the less developed nation can innovate on. Okay, which means it may be easy to innovate. It may be easy to add on to something that's already developed. Okay, that has been developed from scratch. So to come up with something from scratch, out of the box, a brand new idea, a theory, a brand new design is much harder than to add on to something. So something that already exists in the market. Okay, so for example, okay, it's much harder to come up with a cell phone to manufacture or produce a cell phone like an iPhone or a BlackBerry or okay your Android than to come up with cell phone accessories. Okay, so say for example you have cell phone versus cell phone accessories. Cell phone versus cell phone accessories. All right. So basically, in terms of technology, okay, what they're saying is, in terms of the theory of convergence, that the less developed nations can take advantage of theories, of concepts, of laws that have been invented, that have been discovered, okay, and build on those concepts. Okay, once you build on those concepts, it's easy to recover in terms of the technological gap. Okay, whereas a well-developed nation may have to invent something from scratch because they don't have somebody to build on. Okay, they have to build on something themselves. Okay, invention is tough and but innovation may be easy. So innovation may be easy. So coming up something from scratch may be tough. Coming up with a theory from scratch, discovering something at its root from scratch may be tough compared to building on something which already has been discovered. So, but innovation may be easy. For example, law of gravity. Okay, there are a lot of products out there, a lot of vehicles that work on the concept of gravity. Okay, okay. Now, for the first person to find a way to fly in the air, be much harder than for others to follow and build on things that they can use to fly in the air. Okay, concepts. Okay, theories. All right, theories that were invented, let's say 100 years, 200 years, 300 years ago. All right, so that would be it for this video. On behalf of B Electronics, this is Obey. Have yourself a great day.